What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the Xbox Series X versus the PlayStation 5, and enjoying myself a nice cup of coffee because it is Black Friday, so you gotta drink a little bit of black coffee, right? Well, a very interesting story has been going around that is kind of being debated as to how this managed to happen, which is this story here. Now, this is actually sourced over at The Verge originally. Why is the PlayStation 5 outperforming the world's most powerful console? Now, here's the thing, a lot of people are just straight up confused by this. This isn't some sort of like console war malarkey. I'm actually kind of just interested in the fact that, in general, the PlayStation 5 is doing better than the Xbox Series X in a variety of comparisons. Frame rates, resolution, just how steady it can perform. And this is weird because everybody knows the Xbox Series X is stronger. This isn't some sort of debate. Like, we can just look at the raw numbers. The Xbox is a better machine, and yet the PlayStation 5 is kind of beating it in a small margin. Now, this article is actually very, very long, and it's very, very technical. What I want to do is, IGN did a write-up on this article, kind of talking about it and kind of breaking it into more layman's terms. So I want to take a look at this and see the evidence for ourselves. While Microsoft has been touting that the Xbox Series X is the world's most powerful console, the PS5 is outperforming it in early game tests, and Microsoft themselves is working to try and find out why. As reported by The Verge, Digital Foundry has been analyzing some of the new games across both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Now, the PS5 obviously has 12.28 teraflops of GPU performance, and the Xbox Series X has 12 teraflops. Now, this is actually a pretty substantial chunk. I've been saying this for a bit now. I do believe that the PlayStation 5, as much as my PlayStation 5, as much as I love this machine, eventually I realize that the Xbox is going to surpass it when it comes to just third-party processing. I think that, like, I have my Xbox controller right here. I do have to realize that pretty soon the Xbox is going to probably surpass it when it just comes to, general sparkliness. And I'm okay with that. I love my Xbox Series X. I definitely love the freaking controller and stuff. So now that I'm thinking about the fact that future Call of Duties and stuff will probably be a little bit better on the Xbox, I don't have a problem with that. But here's the problem. A lot of the analysis being done on cross-gen games, whether it be Dirt was tested pretty extensively, which was kind of crazy. We saw a bunch of stuff with Devil May Cry 5 as the example being used here, and they even did some stuff actually with Assassin's Creed, where Assassin's Creed, absolutely, that's a third-party game. Typically, Ubisoft is very good about optimizing for each individual console. That game looks and runs better on the PlayStation 5, but I want to look at the specific example of it here. The Devil May Cry 5, the Xbox Series X is a better performance in 4K and ray tracing modes, but the higher frame rate modes run better on PlayStation 5. So I decided to actually pull this up myself. This is the Digital Foundry video. They just recently passed 1 million subscribers. Now, before I even press play on this, let me just say the very obvious fact. Some people get super butthurt about Digital Foundry now. There is this weird group of Microsoft fanboys who claim that they're paid shills or that these guys are Sony employees or stupid stuff like that. Digital Foundry, they're just the facts guys. Straight up, all they do all day is analyze pixels. They're probably incredibly boring at parties, but that's good for us. That means that they're just extra good at their job of analyzing piles of raw data. Now, here's what they managed to discover using their technical tests. This is the high frame rate mode on the Xbox Series X, and over here is just the standard PlayStation 5. And strangely enough, not only is it a more steady frame rate, a lot of times it manages to go as a higher frame rate. It's still so interesting to me. So they did actually different styles of comparison versus the this is ray tracing performance mode. They went through, I'm going to link this down below, or what I'm going to link specifically is this big Verge article, because it really goes in depth as to what the hell is going on and kind of tries to figure out the motivations of why 12 teraflops is somehow performing worse than about 10 teraflops. What's perhaps even more interesting itself than the performance issues is the fact that Microsoft seems baffled by it. Like, they knew that they made the world's most powerful console, and yet the developers, now that they're getting a chance to sit down and put games on it, are not able to do as much as even the console makers maybe thought was possible. So here, let's take a look at this. The dips look really strange to me, and it kind of suggests that there's some sort of API limitation on the Xbox side where the GPU is being held back by something, suggests Digital Foundry. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which has been heavily promoted by Microsoft, also runs a bit smoother on the PlayStation 5. The same goes for Dirt 5. Now, we mentioned that earlier, but here's the interesting thing to me, which is the fact that Microsoft has actually released an official statement. This is the Microsoft statement. We're aware of performance issues in a handful of optimized titles on the Xbox Series X and S and are actively working with our partners to identify and resolve the issues. So even Microsoft understands that this is not good. This is definitely not working as intended. They are supposed to have the best games on the best platform, and it just ain't the case. We want to ensure an optimal experience, says Microsoft spokesperson in a statement to The Verge. As we begin a new console generation, our partners are just now scratching the surface of what next-gen consoles can do, and minor bug fixes are expected as they learn to take full advantage of our new platform. Okay, so this is just corporate speak, basically saying, we have the best console, now it's up to the developers to make the best games. Now, there is a theory about this, and I've seen this theory for a bit. The main thing I've seen pitched is that maybe what happened is perhaps Sony gave out a bunch more of their platforms, they gave out a bunch more of their dev kits earlier than the Xbox Series X. Maybe it is just that people had more time to make games for the PlayStation 5 so they could get them running a lot better. Like, even in the Verge article, they talk about this. Like, why is this occurring in multiple games? Certain developers have spoken to The Verge and said that some of the issues start from the fact that Microsoft only allowed developers to submit games for the Xbox certification in June, whereas developers have had access to PS5 dev kits far in advance. Now, that may be confusing. Let me break it down. What may be happening? Oh god, this statement's going to make some people mad. It seems like maybe what happened is Sony realized that the PlayStation 5 had to be a freaking banger right out of the gate. And so what they tried to do is they gave out a ton of PlayStation 5 dev kits as fast as possible. And here's what happened. People made PlayStation 5 games, and now they're porting those PlayStation 5 games that are practically done to the Xbox Series X. So even though the Xbox Series X is stronger, it is a better console with a stronger GPU, it's still getting ports now, but technically from a PlayStation 5. Now, this is a little bit of speculation because we haven't had an official statement or like a clear comparison of like internal raw code, but this is kind of what things seem like. But this is actually good news, which it kind of comes down to the fact that over time, I think that these systems are going to become better. I think that PlayStation 5 graphics are going to leap above and beyond. I think Xbox Series X graphics are going to get bigger and better and brighter way, way faster. And here's the biggest thing I just want to say. I've already seen some people, like yesterday I decided to stream about 10 hours of PlayStation 5 and it was super, super fun, but occasionally people in chat would say, alright, this is my first time seeing raw, live, in-action PlayStation 5 graphics. It kind of just looks like a little bit better than a PlayStation 4. And I'll agree with that. I think that a lot of games right now for this first year aren't going to look super spectacular. The major benefit is that solid-state hard drive, is the fact that there's not going to be loading times, they can have a smoother gaming experience. And I think that as these developers get used to this new tech, especially those hard drives, they're going to be able to do more with that GPU. They're going to be able to make even higher frame rates, even more sturdy stuff, and make the games themselves just bigger and brighter and hopefully a lot more fun to play, because we don't play pixels, we play games. But what do you guys think about all this? Is this an interesting story to y'all, or are you kind of just hand-waving it away and saying, Xbox will be the best in the end, bro? One of the weird excuses I've seen is some Microsoft fanboys have been saying, oh, I don't care if the games look worse, I have backwards compatibility, which is a little bit of a mind-blowing statement, but, you know, whatever. You do you, buddy. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Ooh, boy. All right, well, it is a good morning. I hope you guys got some great stuff for Black Friday, by the way. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.